You know, you don't have to be one of the top 100 players in the world to make a lot of money playing tennis. If you know what you're doing, you can just become a coach. This video is going to give you all the information you need to know to have an awesome career out there on the tennis courts as a full-time tennis pro. So first and foremost, I just want to give you the structure of what we're going to go into today. Number one, we're going to address how to be a good coach. Number two, where the best place is to work as a coach. And number three, what the long-term income potential could be if you do the profession the right way. So first and foremost, how to be a good coach. I kind of am giving you a little hint right away, and that is breaking things down into simple steps for your students. The best thing to remember when it comes to being a good coach is that people don't know these things inherently. And what I mean by that is it's very common for you to have a skill and to just assume that there's steps along the way that people are just going to automatically know. And especially with tennis, that's just not the case. It's very important as a tennis professional to treat this profession like you're a doctor or you're a dentist and you have a skill or expertise that people need to trust you on. So just like I started off this video telling you exactly what we were going to go into, it's really important as a coach to always tell people where you are going to be taking them and why you're going to be taking them that way. There was some point in your life as a tennis player where you had to learn all of these habits. And as a tennis coach, you're going to be encountering people that have absolutely no idea what they're doing. So the most important thing in being a good tennis coach is being able to put yourself in the mindset of someone that's never picked up a tennis racket before and thinking, okay, if I were to just start from ground zero, what would be the things I can tell someone that if they never took another lesson from me, they would be able to use those principles to get better. But the best way to do that is to say, hey, today we're working on forehand and we're taking our racket back early. The reason we are focusing on taking our racket back early is A, B, and C. And it's very important that you explain things to people in that structure so that when they're going through the motions, they're not just like, hey, should I be working with another coach? This feels like I don't really see what the end goal is here. You don't want your clients to have that inner dialogue. You want them to trust you and have confidence that if they do what you say they should do, that they will get better. I've been a coach now for 4 years. I've worked with students ages 3 years old to ages 75. And the most common thing that I think has enabled me to have a good rapport with clients and build a successful career is coming up with tons of analogies. Analogies are going to be an awesome way for you to break things down for people because they simply just don't know what they don't know. And something that you'll come across a lot with students, especially adults that may have a lot of confidence, they may be successful in their respective businesses, so they come onto a tennis court and they think they know everything. These are the people where it's really important to have analogies because when you're trying to teach them something, if they feel like they can do it a better way, an analogy will show them why you're teaching them a certain way and why they should trust you. So this is all about trust. This is a profession where you're charging people an hour or an hourly or a minute by minute rate of why they, like a lawyer would. You have an expertise or a skill set that they are trying to take from you. And so the best way to show your expertise is to show, hey, I know where you're coming from. Trust me, this feels awkward, but this is the reason we're doing this. Next step to being a good tennis coach is just having good emotional intelligence. You may have a mix of private and group lessons, and especially for group lessons, it's really important to learn who your players are and how they tick. Right? If I have a group lesson with a bunch of kids, one thing that'll save me a lot of time and energy is finding the kids in the class that have good leadership qualities and allowing them to kind of self-automate the class. If I have a student that seems to be a little bit disruptive, maybe they just need a little bit more attention and specialized training, and I need to be prepared on the fly to go ahead and do things in order to keep the lesson plan together. you should always have, an A to B to C idea of where you want your lesson plan to go, but it's really important that you're flexible and adapting to the personalities of your students. So having emotional intelligence, definitely another skill set that is something that you should work on. I would suggest reading leadership books, reading books about behavior and understanding how to work with different personalities really comes through in being a good tennis coach. And then I think the final thing to address on being a good tennis coach is it's a customer service job. You are what people are when they check into a hotel. You're a concierge. You are the face of a luxury hospitality experience. And I think that something that's really, really helped my career take off is treating the job like I'm working at a hotel. Always have a smile. Always, sir, ma'am, you're always treating these people like they're celebrities, right? Tennis is a very elegant sport. There's a certain mentality and lifestyle that comes to mind when you think about tennis, and you should lean into that. Make sure that people feel like they're $1 million, that they're the most important person in the universe. You know, a lot of people will enjoy a tennis lesson way more if they just think you're their friend rather than they actually hit ground strokes well. So keep in mind the emotional element of this, that people want to be your friend. And you could literally have the best advice ever on hitting solid forehands, backhand serves. If they don't connect with you as a person, they will not re-up on the lesson packages. I promise you that. Where should I work as a tennis coach? That's a great question. And it's something that I had to kind of learn just through trial and error. There's a couple of different ways you can go. There's country clubs. There are high school and college programs, like becoming a high school or college team coach. And then there's creating your own tennis company. Now, as far as country clubs go, country clubs are probably the least profitable unless you are the director or the head tennis professional. And also, because you are working with a limited group of people, namely the members of the club, I think it has a tendency to be the least interesting because you'll just meet the same people over and over again. And if they're not a high level of tennis or they're kind of just doing it as a leisure activity, you're never really coaching high performance athletes or doing really intensive training sessions. And to me, that is what is the most fun type of class to coach. And that's classes where people are there to get better and you're really going hard in the paint, working on the craft. So country clubs, definitely cool because a lot of them will pay you a salary on top of whatever your lesson is. So you'll get 401k matching, you'll get insurance, and they might put less hours on you because they'll treat you more like a conventional employee. But at the same time, the pay is there's really kind of a ceiling on how much you can make, even if you are a director, because, a club will only have a certain amount of members. And depending on the club you're at, a lot of these clubs are not looking to get more members. They have a hard cap at a certain level. So if you are working at a club, it's definitely a nice lifestyle, but I don't think it's necessarily the most satisfying way to coach tennis. If you really love tennis and you're into it because you just kind of want to always be in the developmental high performance stage of the business. High schools and colleges is probably the most interesting and fun way to do tennis coaching. However, it is a huge time commitment, and in terms of the pay, unless you're the coach of a very significant Division I program, it's probably not going to be the option that makes you the most money. Now, what I do like about coaching high schools especially is that you're always going to have an organic group of clients that are coming to you, because if you know how to play tennis and you're constantly around these kids and their parents during matches, you will be able to secure private lessons, no problem. And a lot of times if you're working with the high school that has their own courts, you can use those facilities for your lessons, and it really helps you avoid a lot of the headaches of getting certified to teach through a facility somewhere else. So definitely not a bad option, but I feel like if you want to make a killing coaching high school and college athletes, you really have to know what you're doing from the entrepreneurial point of view. Now, I work through a third party that kind of rents out facilities at a public park. And I think that tennis academies done like this are the best. And the reason for that is simple. If you're at a park, you have endless foot traffic coming to the courts, and you're always able to pick up new clients. They stop by the courts, they say, hey, I want to learn something. You have a flyer with contact information. There's a couple pros that they can reach out to, and it's really as simple as that. It's not limited to a closed off group of people like a club would be. And to be honest, you probably earn a higher percentage of your hourly rates at these places than at a country club. Country club has super nice facilities, so if you charge $100 an hour, they might say, hey, you have a $30 court fee and you're using our facilities to run your business, so it's only fair. Now, if you work through a company like mine and you're just going through a court, you still have a facility fee, but it's a lot lower. I started off with one student, teaching him at Echo Park every Sunday. He was a friend of my wife's, and I am eternally grateful for him because I definitely did not know what I was doing. And I then went from having one client, this was back in 2016, to now I handle a book of anywhere from 50 to 75 clients depending on my season, right? And the best thing to keep in mind as a tennis coach is that this is your job, and if you want to pay the bills doing it, you need to work somewhere that's going to give you the clientele that you need in order to sustain a lifestyle. What is the income potential for a tennis coach? Now, honestly, you'd be surprised, but it's pretty legit. You know, when I first started coaching tennis, I thought this would be kind of like a part-time hobby that would kind of get me through my awkward mid-20s phase of like, I don't really know what I want to do for a living. And it just hasn't been that. It's really been an extremely gratifying career. And if you know what you're doing and you end up, fortunate enough to have a large book of clients, you can make a lot of money in this business. Now, just think about it practically. You are an attorney. You probably charge like anywhere from $100 an hour to, I'm assuming the best ones charge thousands of dollars an hour. As a tennis coach, you can charge, depending on your area, $100 an hour for a lesson. If you're really good and you know what you're talking about, you are worth that money, right? So $100 an hour, let's say you have $15 subtracted for court rentals or $20 for rental fees, you're making $80 an hour take home. Let's say you have 20 students a week. That's a really nice living that you're making, and that's before you add in group lessons, etc. Now, if you want to start your own tennis academy, I would suggest that you do that once you've put some years into the business and if you have a lot of resources. It's expensive. You have to have startup capital to rent out a facility or to lease it. You have to have money for equipment. You need to have sponsorships in place so you're not paying for every racket out of your own pocket, etc. Generally, you're going to tackle these things when you've been in the business for a decade and you know exactly who to reach out to. If you're like a really high level college player or professional that's looking to start an academy, first of all, you're probably not watching this video. And second of all, you kind of have a clear understanding of where to go. And the cool thing about running a tennis academy is that you're making passive income. Let's say you have 10 courts. All 10 of those courts have students on them, and all of those students are being coached by people that you hired, right? You've hired these coaches. They're doing private lessons. Every time they do a lesson, they pay a fraction of it to you. Now you have a money-making machine going on, and you are no longer responsible for being on court for all of that income generation. And that is kind of what the future is. So when you get into coaching, you need to kind of have an understanding of what the pathway is. You have the first couple years of your coaching job, which are just like anything else. You're putting in the hours, you're learning from the best in the industry, you're building up a client base. Then you kind of have your golden years where you're just having fun, you're making a lot of money, you're just coaching people. It's kind of the stage I'm in right now, and it's awesome. And then you have the third stage, which is when you monetize your own business. And that's something that, down the road I'm definitely interested in, but right now I'm just kind of enjoying where I'm at. So that's kind of a breakdown of how to be a good coach, where you can work, and what the income potential is if you decide to commit all the way. I really wish someone had just told me that I could have made more money as a coach than as a professional player doing tournaments, because honestly, it would have made me more interested in taking practice seriously, and at the same time, it just saves a lot of stress. So that's the gist of it. That's all you need to know.